I'm Ambassador David Carden. I spend my time trying to shape venues to solve what I believe are the problems that are to come, the problems for people in your generation, not so much my generation. And so mediation has a role to play in how to manage the stresses that I think we're all going to have to be managing in the future.
And the Weinstein International Foundation focuses on ways, it's a not-for-profit, that focuses on ways we can help mediation and society, particularly in developing countries.
About 11 years ago, I was a U.S. Special Representative in Bosnia. I'd been asked by Secretary Albright to help with the distribution of privatization funds and was given wonderful advice from a Muslim magistrate. Some diplomat was smart enough to bring me to for a lesson in mediation in Bosnia. And he explained to me all the cultural nuances and all the ways that he suggested that I could more successfully mediate these matters. On the way back on the plane, I began to think about whether or not there were these hidden men and women throughout the world that had the magic and were secretly mediating matters, whether they were in small villages. There were these remarkable people, and with better training and the synergy of working together in a program, they could both improve their own practices but also share what they had learned and instruct us in mediation. The idea of the fellowship was born, and I entered into a partnership with the JAMS Foundation to sponsor 10 fellows a year from different countries to come over here and do a project here and then to return to their countries where they would continue to practice or open up mediation practices and try to blend their culture and their particular legal system with the knowledges of and techniques that they learned in the fellowship program. We have produced over 100 fellows, now 110 of them in 70 countries. We've had people working for the UN who've come to us who are mediating between the tribes. We've had 3 Rwandan fellows who, after the genocide there, have turned their country into a model of mediation. We have 3 fellows in India who are the absolute pioneers in mediation in India and creating community centers. Rwanda, Bhutan, Israel, all around the world, there are people doing remarkable stuff.
People that we have identified with talent and drive and passion, with a light in their eyes for justice.
To our surprise, they developed their own network. They began to share information. They began to help each other in various projects, and they began to be interested in certain regional problems.
I'd like to see us train specific subgroups, be they politicians or clergy or military leaders or others, in concepts like interest-based negotiation and how they can take these ideas back to their own local communities.
There's a sense of peaceful making here. There's a sense of trust. There is a sense of happiness and contentment that I've faced, that I've seen.
And one thing that is unique about the Weinstein Foundation is the fact that it seeks for local solutions, not just enforced solutions. And I think that is why, God willing, we are going far. We'll touch more lives, and thank you so much for this opportunity to be here with you and with other fellows.
Good evening, everyone. We at the Pepperdine Caruso School of Law and the Straus Institute welcome you to an event that celebrates vision, celebrates courage and conviction, and most importantly, celebrates generosity and leadership in the field of dispute resolution. My name is Sukhsimranjit Singh, and I'm the Managing Director for the Straus Institute. Please join me in welcoming Judge Daniel Weinstein, the recipient of our prestigious Peacemaker Award. We thank Linda Weinstein for this incredible video. Thank you, Linda. Linda is also a filmmaker and amazing support to us in the mediation worldwide. Thank you, Linda. We'd also like to acknowledge and welcome Judge Weinstein's beautiful family. Allow me to request you to stand up, please. We have Ruth. We have Regina, we have Josh, Chris, and Ethan. Please stand. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I would like to welcome the Weinstein International Foundation and its board members and the amazing Ellen. Can you please all stand? Some of the guests flew here from around the world to be here with us as Judge Weinstein receives this award. These are the proud fellows of JAMS Weinstein International Foundation. May I ask you to please stand and be recognized? I hope you get to know some of these amazing men and women because they are the blood and soul of what we do at the foundation. I would like to also welcome our dear colleagues from JAMS. Thank you for being here. From SCMA, from our accomplished alumni, our distinguished faculty, and our amazing staff. Last but certainly not the least, our dear students. Welcome. Having worked with Judge Daniel Weinstein for 6 years on many projects, I'm very excited to have this chance to celebrate his legacy. To kick off our formal program, please allow me to invite the leader of our law school, Dean Paul Caron.
I am thrilled to welcome you all here for this wonderful event. But I want to just take a moment because something exciting happened at the law school 28 hours ago. The tenure faculty met and enthusiastically approved Sukhsimran Singh's promotion to Associate Professor of Law and Practice. He wrote the speech for me, so I had to say that. No. We are so proud of the work that Sukhsimran is doing for the Straus Institute and for our law school. I want to say just a couple words about our law school. I like to say, because it's true, that Pepperdine Law has risen further and faster than in any law school in America. We welcomed our first entering class in 1969 in Orange County, California, to serve the needs of local students who wanted to practice law in Orange County. 9 years later, we moved to our spectacular campus here in Malibu, where this year we are celebrating our 50th anniversary as a law school. We have come a long way, not only in terms of location. We now recruit students from around the country and around the world. Our 10,000 alumni live and work in all 50 states and in 61 foreign countries. We have gone from being an unranked law school to being poised to join the ranks of the top 50 law schools in America in March. Our Straus Institute for Dispute Resolution is the crown jewel of our law school. It's been ranked #1 for 13 of the past 15 years. And then 3 months ago, we were able to rename our law school in honor of a $50 million gift from Rick Caruso. And I'm so happy I'm turned sideways because I have on in that picture this same suit and the same tie. Judge Weinstein, I only put this on for major events. We cannot be any more proud of our past or more excited about the future we have as a law school. We also cannot be more excited to host this wonderful event honoring Judge Daniel Weinstein. Later this afternoon, we will be presenting Judge Weinstein with the Peacemaker Award, the highest honor that our Straus Institute can bestow for individuals, quote, who have made significant contributions to the field of dispute resolution, exhibited leadership in the face of conflict, and diligently pursued the path of peace. We have only presented this award on one other occasion in our history to Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Judge Weinstein is in very good company indeed. In fact, now when he's introduced, he will say, I am the second person to have this award, and I share it with Judge Weinstein. I can think of no better person to introduce Judge Weinstein than his good friend, David Carden, former United States Ambassador to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations under President Obama. Prior to his ambassadorship, David was a partner in the New York office of Jones Day, where he co-chaired the securities litigation and the SEC enforcement practice of the firm. David is now a member of the board of directors of the Weinstein International Foundation. Please join me in welcoming David Carden.
Thank you, Dean Caron. One doesn't usually get the opportunity to introduce one's friends to anyone other than in a social situation, and surely no opportunity is as exalted as this Peacemaker Award, and in front of so many people who care so much about him. I'm humbled by that opportunity, particularly in a place that has gone so far to address some of the things that Dan cares so much about. And what I'd like to do today is spend just a few minutes. Those of you who know me know that I don't usually give my audiences the gift of time. I keep most of that myself. So speaking only for 3 minutes is awkward for me. And so I've tried to discipline myself by actually preparing remarks today, which I never do. I've delivered prepared remarks 5 times in my life. This is the 5th. And I'm going to do it just because I don't want to go past my time. It's customary, of course, on occasions like this to account for people's accomplishments. That's what you expect me to do. This is what Dan did. These are the many, many things that he's contributed to his world and ours. I'm not going to do that. And there's a reason why I'm not going to do that. If I did it, it would be not only traditional, it would be very Homeric. It would be the launching of the ships, the tribes, and all that. I rather focus on who Dan Weinstein is. That's a hard thing to do, particularly in 3 minutes, which is my allotted time, as I've already observed before. And you're wondering whether I'm going to get through it that fast. But I'm going to try, and I'm going to try for a very specific reason. For Dan Weinstein, it's always morning in the world. He looks ahead, not behind. He thinks the view to the east is much more beautiful than the view to the west. He looks ahead, and rather than look back on his accomplishments, which you will hear something about, it would be, to my way of thinking, a disservice not to somehow capture that in this moment that I've been given. But it's hard business. It's hard business to talk about who someone is. All the words I might say, behind all the words I have to offer, there are other words. Behind all the lies I could reveal, there are other lies. But fortunately, Dan has given us a clue, albeit unintentionally, as to something that we can reflect on as to who he is. And that clue is inherent in the fact that he is Justice Daniel H. Weinstein. Everybody wants justice. Without it, we're lost in our personal, professional, and surely in our communal lives. I think we become disoriented without justice when it's been denied. We doubt ourselves, and worlds without justice are unstable places. So too identities, I think, and identities are critical things. Justice has been central to Dan Weinstein's life. This puts him in numinous company. Those dedicated to justice emphasize the importance of communities. They build communities that enable others to contribute to their lives and to the lives of their friends in their world. For this reason, the just are blessed, as has been said, for their blessings ramify and enrich all of us. For Dan, justice isn't just a judicial notion. It isn't simply a mechanism to resolve conflicts. It is about helping people belong, creating ways to include them, giving those on the outside a seat at the table inside. For Daniel, justice is about participation. It's about creating ways for people to compose more beautiful lives. It's for this reason it's a tool also for peacemakers. How does he do these things? How has he done them? Most fundamentally, he's hopeful. He believes things should be done and things actually can be done. Here's an example of what I mean by that. And it's not from the mediation world at all. This is what I meant when I said there are always lives standing behind the other lives. Dan Weinstein started something called the 7 Teepees program in San Francisco, an after-school program for underprivileged youth. Because they saw a need, he saw a need because they were failing in such large numbers in the city. As a consequence of what he's done, he's changed the lives of the people who participated in that program. Hundreds, thousands of people young people who've gone through that program, being taught life skills, being mentored, being taught computer skills, going to college through the generosity of those that have contributed to that program. That's about the future. And that's really what I'm trying to get apart. It's this idea that he has had that you need to empower others that brings the fellows to us this afternoon. These folks came from a long way away, most of them, and at their time and expense. It isn't simply loyalty in many ways. It is that. It's a recognition, but it's really, in many respects, an acknowledgement on their part. This is really about the future that we're trying to create for ourselves. And it's hard business to do that. There is no peace without it. There won't be peace without it. And this is justice as empowerment. It's empowerment as peacekeeping. This is why I think we're really here, to mark the man, to honor who he is, to tell him this is who we hope also to be, to build upon what he has done, to believe that for us, it's also morning in the world. Thank you.
Allow me to now welcome on stage my dear colleague, Professor Tom Stepanovich, who is the Associate Dean for the Straus Institute, and he's been a leader for the Straus Institute for many years. Please welcome Professor Tom Stepanovich. Representing our student body is someone who has really excelled in her studies here, doing her master's in law program from Brazil. Please welcome Ms. Maria Luisa Strepson. And lastly, the legend. Please welcome Judge Daniel Weinstein.
Where you want me? Right next. This one? Right here. Perfect.
Begin? I think all of us realize that we're in the presence of a very special person, a unique personality, someone who falls into a very unique class of individuals in our field and maybe in humanity generally. A person who has not only done great things on his own, but has empowered many other people. You know, Judge Weinstein, I have to say, the last time we gave this award, and I was there, was 10 years ago. It took us 10 years to find another person that deserved this award, but I think we found the right person, don't you? Now, we have a limited amount of time and a lot to talk about. We could go on forever about your credentials and your background, but I want to challenge you by asking you to tell us what the essential building blocks, as you think back on your life and career, the essential building blocks of this person that became such a phenomenal mediator, but also a problem solver with big ideas that empowered other people. What were key moments or key aspects of your background that really laid the groundwork for the person we know?
Thank you, Tim. Interesting, because I'm probably a lot of the when we invite the fellows that are here and others to come, one of the questions we ask them sort of is, how did you become a mediator? Why did you choose this to be your profession? And we get very interesting answers from them, from different cultures, from different backgrounds. One of the things is, from a lot of them, and I think it was true of me, is being a middle child, and sort of, where you sort of find that peacemaking is important for your survival. And my older sister, wonderful older sister Ruth, is here, and she probably remembers me most locking her in the telephone closet. But I did from a very early age, I think, and between my parents and relatives and friends, like solving problems and making peace more than I did being combative. Even probably on the basketball court where I was a little guy, I found it better to talk my way out of it than try to fight my way out of it. So I very early developed this penchant for wanting to try to find ways to solve disputes. I didn't get the thrill that some other lawyers did when they started of winning at trial and succeeding, but rather got more satisfaction out of a good settlement. And I think that just became what I was interested in, both as a lawyer, and then when I was even when I was a chief assistant DA, I was running programs for sexual assault victims and others and community people. And then when I went on the bench, I think I just gravitated toward settlements and enjoying bringing people together more than I did sitting through trials and refereeing them. And admired the people who did that well. I was both because of my attention span, which isn't very long, and because I really just wanted to say, hey, this is silly, all this stuff. Let's talk about it. Gravitated towards settlement and then eventually to mediation. So I think it was very early in my in my makeup, and that I something that David said, and then I'll keep my answer shorter than this, I hope. I think something attracted me to people who were problem solvers and wanted to lessen conflict rather than people who wanted to sort of win and achieve. And I found while there are many great trial lawyers and others who are wonderful people and have made enormous contributions, I found myself gravitating more toward people who looked for resolution than people who wanted to win in conflict. And we need both. And I wouldn't want we kind of feed on each other. I was always impressed that in the Jewish religion, the God that we believe in there's sort of two gods. The God that was the strict God of the Ten Commandments and follow the rules and imposed punishment and responsibility, and then the compassionate God that forgave and asked us to see the best and remember the golden rule and to empathize and all of those qualities. So they kind of need each other, and we need people on both wings that we can trust. So I just ended up on the other wing.
Let me ask you this. You and Sukhsimran and I were talking earlier today about mediator styles, the way they would characterize themselves, the way they think about themselves and what they do, and the way other people might think of them. If you were going to describe Danny Weinstein, how would you describe yourself as a mediator?
There's a number of lawyers out there who mediated with me, and they're gonna, boy, they could give you better answers on that. But that's a good question, because I think one of the things you asked, something that's dear to my heart that I disliked about the bench was that judges never got any honest feedback. They kind of got their power straight from Yahweh or wherever it came from, and put on the black robe, and everybody laughed at their jokes and nodded when they were pontificating or whatever it was. And so you don't really know the impact you have on people and how you're being received. In mediation, you have the chance, because the marketplace decides whether they want to go to you, to get some real feedback on how you affect people. You know, how do you, and I had to learn, I think, a lot about myself, how I affected women versus men, older people versus younger, different cultures, and learned as I went along a lot about it through mistakes and through the people that I could trust to give me honest feedback. I use, you asked me how I describe myself, I use storytelling and humor a lot as a not as a technique, but as part of the process of trying to get people to do it. Not everybody likes that style. Some people like a more serious, more analytical, more judge-like figure to bring problems to, and they have some very good choices of those kinds of people. I guess what people would say about me is that I was genuinely interested in the people who were for me, that I listened, I learned, and that's a learned skill. It didn't come easily to me, who likes to talk, to learn to listen. I learned to listen very carefully and to realize that that's a real art form of its own. And then I used the interest in people that I tried to convey that was genuine. Everybody there has something about them you can like and admire or be empathetic toward. Sometimes you have to struggle to find it, but everybody has something and a story or something that you can get behind. And I think it was, once people felt they're heard and that you're really interested in their problem, and if you conveyed that, you have a chance of solving their problem. And without that, until they feel safe and until they feel they're being heard, I don't think you do very well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Judge. So I'm curious, what are the most important trends and developments that you witnessed in the ADR field so far? And how do you believe the next generation needs to prepare for the future?
Wow. Okay. I hope you all heard that. That was what are the trends that have gone on in ADR, and how is this new class of people going to prepare for the future? Okay. The first, in terms of trends, mediation and all the negotiation has been around for a long time. We look in every culture, we read the Bible, we read folklore from every country. We'll find that there were people who we describe as mediators everywhere who had that skill of bringing people together. But the art of mediation as we know it, and ADR as it's developing, has really taken off in the last 30 or 40 years, become part of our legal culture here. And amazingly, and you see it here by the fellows, and as Linda and I've traveled around the world making a documentary on ADR and on the fellows and mediation, you see that its acceptability it's happening. I love to say it's happening, because when we first started, it was so, we were, those of us who left the bench, the four of us, and started jams, and a lot of the credit in the United States for the revolution that's brought mediation to almost every civil case is due to the pioneering work that JAMS has done, the trend has changed a lot, where I think people are beginning to see that there's a different way to approach human conflict than to figure out how you can win. And the place that we've failed, so we've created all these processes to accommodate different kind of conflicts. When we were just recently in India and saw Judge Mehta opening up, a couple hundred community mediation centers in India, where people were used to waiting 15 years to go to trial, and Judge Mehta, one of our early fellows, went back and just quietly opened up all these centers around India. And when we see that we stood in the hallways and saw people getting access to justice in 2 weeks with a trained mediator, and going in and solving problems often in an hour that they waited decades for until the dispute was hopeless. These people getting access to justice through different modalities of mediation is a very exciting event. And there are people out there, mediators out there, creating all sorts of different modalities and mechanisms to make it happen. And it's an inspiring thing to watch. Where we're failing, and I'll leave it very shortly, is with the lawyers. That how few lawyers have become really skilled in the art of mediation advocacy. And that's, I think, our work, not just here, but throughout the globe, is to train more lawyers to understand that the skills of mediation and mediation advocacy complement their litigation skills, but they're different art forms, and they take different skills. and we've not done a good job on that. But the modalities are great, and there's, I won't bore you now because we don't have time for it, but some of the people who are here, Rebecca Westerfields, others have created all sorts of different ways of mediating cases and solving problems. And that and we see it, by the way, when you say what are the changes. You see it in schools, conflict corners in schools with little kids mediating fights out on the playground, to hospitals that all have mediation resolution department, police departments. Our foundation is doing work in London and Pakistan and in Brazil on police learning methods of mediation effectively. It's making its way in this method of resolving disputes is making its way into all of our different institutions and starting to be worldwide in a very exciting way. And when you see how far it's gone in 20 years, 30 years, where it will be 30 more years from now is with your generation,
Yes.
is very exciting. And it's been such a great thing for those of us who are here and the other members of our foundation's board to be kind of at the, not at the very beginning, but at the mid-beginning stages of this movement that is, I think it's started when this small but very dynamic, small in physical stature, dynamic Minister of Justice of Georgia stood up at a conference we were in Tbilisi, Georgia, and said, ADR, alternative dispute resolution? She said, alternative dispute resolution in Georgia is litigation. Mediation is number one. Alternative is litigation. She said, we're done with litigation first and mediation second. So when you see that happening in Georgia, the real Georgia, it's going to happen worldwide, and we both have a responsibility and an excitement about doing it. I hope that answers your question. And the second part, and then was, what responsibility does your generation
Yes,
have?
how can we prepare for the future?
Well, okay. So I'm going to be honest about your generation.
Please.
Okay. Okay. I think you've done some remarkable things. I mean, all of the incredible inventions and communication abilities and all of the advancements that have gone on, that have brought information and knowledge to around the world is just remarkable. And then I think you've done a terrific job on creating a meritocracy that at least here, that the old boy network doesn't work anymore. It's not where you know who your family was or what gender you are or that counts. It's whether you can do the work. Mm-hmm. And your generation has done a much better job with that than mine did. And so I take my hat off to you. When I say where are you going with it, only thing that worries me is that I see your generation not having much of a culture, faith, moral creed in the companies and a lot of the ventures that are happening and in a lot of their endeavors. And I worry about when you say taking it forth to resolve disputes and so on, but not without some really important core beliefs and faith. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of your homework, along with taking these new techniques to make them available to everybody.
Thank you.
Belief and faith is perfect place to be. Pepperdine Caruso Law School. We believe in it. I've been fortunate, friends, to have had chance to interact with many of the fellows who are in the room, and having worked with them over years. And it's just an amazing caliber, talent that you bring to mediation, Judge. But my question is, what was your vision to work with fellows so closely through JAM's Weinstein Foundation, but then also starting the Weinstein International Foundation and leading that path for others to follow, to learn from? What was your vision behind that?
Boy, that's a good question. David said something that was the kind of nicest compliment I've ever gotten, and thank you, David, for that introduction. It touched me a lot. But he talked about, because I hadn't really put a word on it of what I like to do, and it was about empowerment. And I think I get off by empowering people to do stuff. It just makes me feel good, and it's what I feel like my heritage taught me. If you've got assets and you've got abilities, that's what you should use them for, along with enjoying all the good things that are out there in the world. And so I feel like that's we had this inventory out there of, I hate to call you all inventory, you wonderful fellows, but there was no other place that JAMS and I, through the Weinstein JAMS Fellowship Program, created, I think now 140 fellows in 70-something countries. And we're starting to do some of these remarkable things when we started going and following them. I mean, Jamina, who's here, I mean, being the first woman mediator in Ecuador and working with the Indians out there, and now doing a project with magistrates. Aminu, who you saw in Nairobi, is now on the cabinet in Nairobi, but he's creating police stations. I could go on and on. Every one of them out there doing amazing things. And that there are, in small ways and big ways, we're making remarkable achievements. They needed a place to synergize, to go where they could collaborate with their fellows, that they could expand their vision, that they could get advanced education from we have on our board some of the best trainers in the world. Suk is one of them, and Suk Simran is, and so is Bruce Edwards and others who are just the very best in the world. We've been asked by the High Court of India to go over and train them and do stuff like that. But the fellows needed a place where they could collaborate, where they could learn, where they could advance their projects, and where things could happen. So we put together this dream team board, and I think we got the best darn board you can find anywhere of people committed to conflict resolution from different perspectives. You know, some judges, Rob Hammersfield just joined us, is from the insurance industry, but they're all committed, and this is a real working board to conflict resolution, and they're banding together, working with the fellows. Now, the fellows, on their own, without direction, started collaborating. The wonders of the internet. They started communicating with each other, sharing problems, talking about their practices and what they were doing and how they could improve them, beginning to explore whether they could band together. Sharif in Egypt getting others from the Middle East to go and look at a water problem in Dubai, or looking at Dimitrios from Greece, talking about us looking at alleged stolen art, and perhaps creating a museum, an international art museum that would house these contested works of art around the world, and working with people to solve those problems. Pollution, there's all these cross-global things. And then we had a SWAT team from Latin America who parachuted into this little village in Mexico, place that has all the problems of any small town and village, water, access, so on. And 5 of them parachuted in to deal with some of those problems. Not all successfully, but nevertheless, a new approach of regional people coming in and attacking problems, small, just things as big as the pollution in the Mekong Delta, or pandemics, or some of the bigger global problems that we're now facing. And the potential is there. There's a wealth of talent in these fellows that would just blow your mind if you knew what they're doing and what they're achieving and their enthusiasm. And we're just getting started. And this foundation is the place where I think with that collaboration, the board and these remarkable fellows, and there isn't any other place that has that kind of inventory. So the Weinstein James Fellowship Program of 10 fellows from around the world coming each year to get trained and to study under the tutelage of our wonderful JAMS mediators who sacrifice their time to work with them and let them shadow and teach them what they've learned, and then go back to their countries. That program will continue, and continue hopefully to produce some of the stars that are out here that I hope some of you who are here will get a chance to meet today. That will continue. We've funded it with collaboration with JAMS for the next 20 years. But those fellows, after they do, will now have a place to go to take it to the next level, to collaborate, to synergize, to educate, to do all the things, and to attack some of the regional and some local problems, some regional problems, and at some point, hopefully, take a stab at some of the global problems and global warming and other things that are threatening us, and that traditional diplomacy, military, and our politics have not solved. So, we'll have lots of mistakes, lots of failed ventures, but we're just getting started, folks. It's very, very exciting.
Judge, you've actually given me an entree to a question that I just came up with, not on the list. We're here listening to someone with a first-rate mind who's put that to work, along with a lot of resources, in important ways worldwide. Let's assume that you're made the Czar of civil engagement in the United States. This is an issue, I'm sure, that occupies way too much.
My kid is shuddering.
Czar? Of our, that's my little humor. But you have the opportunity to work on a problem that is affecting us more and more. It's seemingly every day. The inability to really communicate, understand, and appreciate each other's way of looking at things and values. And I'd appreciate any advice you can provide in 2 minutes, a short period of time. And I realize this is quite a big question to ask someone, but if there's anyone I'd like to hear talk about that, it's you.
And the question
is, how would you go about trying to resolve some of the issues we have with lack of civil engagement in this country?
I'm trying. I can't get political now. I'm trying to control myself.
Go ahead.
No, look, mediation isn't the recipe for everything, to fix everything, and isn't the antidote to doing it. But you can't sit and watch what's going on in our government and our Congress and sometimes at city councils and so on, and not just wish that some of the trained mediators would have a shot at it with them and stop the posturing and get them into a safe place and begin to appeal to their better side. Tell you a little secret about what we do. And I did, and I'll stay within my 2 minutes. We all have different styles. There's some very good mediators out here, but basically and simplistically, I live with this creed of Rumi that, beyond the arena of right and wrong, there is a field. I will meet you there. And that's the whole secret. And we mediators, regardless of what style we use, we start out in the arena. Every conflict is the arena. He's evil, they're unreasonable, I hate them, we tried this last time, they're gonna da 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 da. And we start every day like that. 11 o'clock, they're at the elevator, I wanna get out of here, I didn't come all the way, hear that jerk, and we just say, sit down, talk, and we just sit there trying to pull the poison out for a while and feed it back to them by listening carefully in a different way that becomes more palatable. And you take a human problem, and in the arena, you kind of move people from here to there. They can finally see each other, some of the poison's out, you're no longer accusing him of fraud, he's just a contract violation, this and that, and then you invite them into the field. And what we're learning is that there's magic that can happen in the field. And some of us don't really understand still. I'm still learning a lot about that. That has to do with your unconscious, that has to do with inviting emotions like grace and decency and all that are in people when you can get through all the interference. And so, could we get our politicians and others into the field and out of the arena? Maybe so. And maybe a lot of good things would happen if they could experience what the field is like. And all of us, in our personal relationships and in professionally, spend most of our life in the arena. And sometimes I'm ashamed of myself how cling to it and what you do when I could be in the field. So that's the goal. But in answer to your question, what could we do? Yes, if we could create the right environment with the right mediators and remove some of the poison and get people into the field where it was safe, I think we could solve a lot of problems.
And you mentioned responsibility earlier, right? And as LLM and MDR students at this top-ranked Straus Institute for Dispute Resolution, we are very privileged. And with privilege comes great responsibility, right?
Thank you.
So my question is, what do you believe to be our responsibility as ADR students and professionals towards peacemaking in this globalized era?
Just to work hard to insist that modality is taught, that all of the lawyers learn those skills along with their litigation skills, which would be and teach their clients that, and realize that there are other choices. There are other choices than litigation to solve problems. And you all, this generation now, with all these tools available, have a responsibility to fight for those to be available on the smorgasbord of options of resolving disputes. And you should just insist on it. Mm-hmm. That's all. And I know you'll do it.
Yes.
I'll
probably run out of time.
We're doing very good, Judge. Maybe the last question, if that's okay with you. That's okay. Well, I have had a pleasure of watching Judge and observing some of the qualities he has, and I like to pick up qualities of amazing men and women. And one of the qualities, like my father has, is he's a very good administrator and very good, honest man in India. Has done really difficult work in a difficult place. One of the qualities you have, Judge, that I've noticed is you're very good in attention. When you're with someone, you make them feel that your world is their world, that you are giving them complete hearing, listening, and your presence. And that's amazing. I mean, I would love to know the secret to that, but if you may. But my question is, do you think we as a society are losing the art of paying attention, of being present, of being, I don't want to blame the new generation entirely or the internet or the cell phones, but would you want to comment on that? How can we regain that art, if you will?
You're asking a sinner to talk about how you do it, because I would guess that first of all, if it's true, and I hope it is, that when I'm not distracted and doing 90, and I talk with someone, whether in a mediation or privately or in anything, that I am really there and that I give them a feeling of my attention, I hope that's true, and it's something I had to learn the hard way, because I'm guilty of periods of great distraction and being tied to my phone or distracted or buzz of stuff, and have to force learned ways of doing it. I don't know. I mean, that's a problem that is certainly societal. We've talked about it, walking in a restaurant, seeing all these kids sitting 1.5 years old on iPads and what's going on and playing video games. I don't know what this is. I mean, it's a challenge for this society. The mediators and all of us are going to have, when I look at what your agenda is going to be of cases, you'll still have the same old landlord-tenant and automobile accident, although it'll be a driverless car that did it. You'll have the same stuff. You'll have the same stuff, but you've got all these issues of privacy, of communication, of all of these, of what are we doing about robots replacing human beings at work? How are we dealing with, you're going to be dealing with creating rules of privacy, of communication and everything else for this new generation. And will you mediate them the same way? I don't know. You may have to develop modalities of mediating those disputes that accommodate the enormous change in our society, and that we don't have rules and laws that anticipated this stuff, folks. We're creating them out of whole cloth. So good luck.
Thank you. We'll need it.
Would you please join us in thanking Judge Weinstein for this? Now, for the movement we have been waiting for, allow me to invite our Dean, Paul Caron. Allow me to invite the judge to please come up forward. Professor Stepanovich, please come forward. And Maria, please join us. And we're going to be presenting the judge with the Pepperdine Caruso School of Law Straus Institute for Dispute Resolution Peacemaker Award. And let's provide the award to judge all of us together. So please join us.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Judge, we also have a very small token from the amazing international fellows you have. They wanted to write for you, and they have written a lot. And many fellows have written their quotations, and they've given stories, and they've shared their gratitude for all the things that the judge have done for them. And this is from all the fellows towards you. So.
This I was Thank you. Thank you. Josh is saying, Dad, don't hold it. You're going to drop it. Give it to Linda. He knows me. I don't want to give a dumb Hollywood thank you to Mom and Dad, but just, I mean, it doesn't get any better than this for someone who's my age and this point in my career, and I'm thankful to my family is here for giving me this award, to JAMS for all it did to make this happen, to all to have my fellows who've become family. You don't understand. We have 130. Ellen, how many is it right now? Huh?
117.
117.
107. We have 117 family members. Every morning we have 40 emails to answer, and we have it's like they didn't realize when they did this that they were ours forever. They're stuck with us. But what a treat! And so thank you for giving me this, and while I'm alive and can enjoy it. Most people don't get to have this until their memorial service. So you're all excused. You don't have to come. Okay? Thank you.